Does your company not take any measures and then worry about why they're not achieving their targets? Or does your company measure everything and then not do anything with the results? I'm John Hurrell, Head Coach of Enterprise Coaching, and today we're going to have a look at how to use measurement within your business to drive performance for the future. So this video is going to outline why you should use measures in the first place, trying to utilise the strategy of the business to deploy the policy through the measurements, using visual management of those measures to help performance in operational areas, and then also what to do with those measures once you have the results. To answer the question of why we should measure things, we're going to look at the example of a car dashboard. If you want to understand how much fuel you have left and therefore how much range you use your fuel indicator. If you're trying to understand how fast you are going, you use your speedometer. If you want to understand when you next need to service the car, again, generally these days the car will be able to tell you through the dashboard. It's a very simple example of how you utilise measurement of a process in order to make sure that the performance is correct. Tasks or objectives which are measured are much more likely to get done. They also allow you to drive performance within whatever process is that you're measuring. You can also motivate people within a process by measuring that performance, and also measuring allows you to understand the current situation within that process using facts rather than hearsay. Now, when we're looking at setting measures, we need to think about the strategy the business is trying to achieve. Every business should have a strategy and therefore should have targets it's trying to achieve within the next financial year. We're going to use a process called policy deployment, otherwise known as Hoshin-Kanri, which looks at trying to set benchmark measures at every level within the business. The aim of this is to try and get all employees within their separate department to be working in the same direction for the same overall objectives. Now, what you would do is set different targets and different measures for each level of the business. You will have strategic measures and objectives such as turnover growth, profit margin increase, market share growth. You then have an operational strategy which would look at things like overall on-time delivery and quality to the customer. Within that operational strategy, you then go to the next level, looking at departmental measures, things such as on-time delivery within the business and to the next process, and again quality to the next process. You might also look at resource efficiency, etc. And then right down to the very bottom level, looking at different individuals and objectives for those individuals. That may be increasing their skills, it may be increasing their personal performance, but they're all aligned all the way to the top to the strategy of the business. And again, as I said, this makes sure that everybody is pulling in the same direction. Before we set these measures, we need to think about one thing, and that is ensuring that they are going to be SMART, or specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. The reasons we set up SMART objectives is so that the measures or the targets that we're trying to achieve are actually more likely to happen. The reasons we need to be specific about the measure is so that there's no grey areas at all. We need the people who are being measured, or the departments that are being measured, to understand exactly what it is that they're trying to achieve. Next is measurable. You have to be able to measure the results. If you can't measure the results, then it is not possible to hit your objective. Achievable. If a measure is unachievable, then people are likely to be demotivated by it, performance may well drop rather than improve, and also the business will not benefit from this. The measure must be relevant to the department or cell or section of the business that is being measured. If it is not relevant, again, it will not be achievable, people will be demotivated, and therefore the performance will not improve. And finally, we need to set time limits for this measure. If we don't do that, then it is likely that potentially the performance could drag on past when we want it to improve, or also people may rush to try and get those measures in place and get the improvements in place, and therefore be working on things that they don't potentially need to be working on. And now we're going to talk about some basic rules of measurement. If you're going to measure something, you must act on it. If you don't do this, you're wasting your time and other people's time, and also you're potentially confusing people in terms of what they're trying to achieve. If you don't act on a measure, it becomes a chore rather than a tool, and again, people will be demotivated by this. Again, remember, targets are much less likely to be achieved if they are not measured. We need to make measures easy for people to understand. If people don't understand how their performance is calculated or measured on a graph, then again, they will be demotivated by this. And finally, delegate the responsibility for taking measurements across the team. Don't try and do it all yourself. It becomes a very large task. it's good practice to try and get people to measure their own performance in their own areas and again within their own departments. Measurements need to be visual. They need to be a tool which everybody can use to understand the current situation. There is a very simple Venn diagram which states we see, we know, we act together. So therefore, managers and also operators can work together and instantly see where problems lie and understand the current situation within that department. With that information, they can then do something about the problem rather than just waiting for it to solve itself. Typical measures in different departments may be within a sales department, things such as revenue generation or inquiries, or even conversion rates. Moving on to things like quality, cost and delivery. Within quality, right first time, customer complaints, and also customer praise, of course. Cost, things such as product margins, how much money you're actually physically making on a product, and also resource efficiency. How well are you using the resources within your business, not just people, but also equipment. And then finally, delivery. Are you delivering on time to your customer? And is that causing you any problems? And also, are you delivering on time between departments and processes? Every business is different, and you must set your measures to suit your processes. Do not use off-the-shelf measures and try and make them fit. We then move on to dashboards within the business, set at different levels to understand the performance within the different sections. Strategically, you would have a dashboard looking at turnover growth, margins, etc., entry to new markets and things like that. And then the next level down within sales departments, again, as I said, you would look at inquiry levels coming in, conversion rates, etc. And then you would below that have individual objectives for the sales team, looking at a number of people they're contacting or number of inquiries they're generating individually. So we're getting that roll down of measures from section to section. Just as I stated with the policy deployment, we now have dashboards or measures set up to hit the different objectives that those people are being tasked with within those departments. So now we need to understand what we're going to do with the results of those measures. We need to understand what they're telling us, and normally this requires you to be able to drill into more than one level of the measure. So for example, here we have month-on-month waste percentage. It doesn't really tell us much apart from the fact that we had some poor months and some good months. So what we need to do next is drill down to the next level. Understand the fault reasons for why we've had high amounts of waste in different months. So we would use Pareto analysis for this. In this example of Pareto, we have things such as wrong dimensions and poor finish, which are clearly causing large amounts of this waste percentage. And that gives us an indication of the areas we need to focus on first in terms of projects for trying to improve. So this is clearly showing us, as we talked about with the Venn diagram earlier, we see together, we know together, and we act together. It's telling us exactly where we need to put our attention. In summary then, we need to make sure that we are using measures from the top of the business and flowing down department or level to level to ensure that everybody has specific objectives to understand what they're trying to achieve on a daily basis, and this should all be aligned to the overall goal of the business. We need to make sure that objectives are smart so that they happen as opposed to are set and then aren't achievable. We need to make sure that they're very easy for people to understand within the business. Too complicated and people won't be motivated by them and they won't even possibly look at them. We need to delegate responsibility so that people are sharing the burden of taking those measures, and also they're getting the responsibility of trying to achieve the improvement. And finally, if we're going to measure something, we must act on it. Thank you for your time. Now go out and measure the right things in your business to drive your performance. I've been John Hurrell, Head Coach of Enterprise Coaching. If you'd like to find out any more, please visit our website at www.enterprise-coaching.co.uk, and also check out our YouTube for various videos on lots of different subject matter around business. Thank you.